in association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. Very good evening to all of you. Before anything else, let's give a huge round of applause to the star cast for this evening, Fortune India's most powerful women in business, who are right here in this room with all of us. Could we hear it for them, please? To introduce the journey of Fortune India with the most powerful women concept over the years, I have the distinct pleasure of calling on stage Mr. D.N. Mukherjee, our editor.
Thank you for being here at Fortune India's first evening, shall we say, to celebrate the most powerful women in business in India. So why are we all here this evening? This evening is not an award ceremony, but a coming together of kindred souls. We also want it to be an evening to remember, and thus we have, perhaps for the first time, a parliamentary-style debate on a riveting topic argued and judged by some of India Inc.'s finest minds. Thank you, all of you, once again for being here.
It gives me great pleasure in welcoming you today to the first Fortune India Most Powerful Women in Business event. Today, we are here to celebrate leaders who exemplify these timeless qualities. Please join me in toasting Fortune India's most powerful women. Thank you.
May I please now have on stage Fortune India's resident poet and photo editor, Mr. Bandeep Singh.
Now, when you are a professional photographer for 20 years, you see beauty everywhere. And it has now been 6 years of photographing the most powerful women in business for Fortune India. I can now say this, that we can also call them the most beautiful women in business. This year, our theme was Beyond the Spotlight. You know, you can see the faces looking through beyond a ring of light. Ladies and gentlemen, I present before you our tribute to this beauty.
As I said in the beginning, we did not want this to be an award ceremony. Instead, we thought we will present a stage to them that will allow them to do what they do best, which is to inspire people. And I'm absolutely thrilled that today we have 9 amazing ladies who are going to come up on stage shortly to take on one such very, very thorny question. Are foreign companies more women-friendly than Indian companies? Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on stage the moderator for the first ever Fortune India Most Powerful Women Debate, Ms. Vani Kola. Ms. Vani Kola. Now the two teams.
That the House is undertaking is relevant, and this House believes that this debate is essential to develop policy towards women, and the reasons for it is what these two teams will highlight today. This House starts with a belief that the foreign multinationals are more women-friendly. So hence, we start this debate with the team to my right. So we'll hear from Aruna on this topic.
I think today both MNCs and Indian companies have all the right policies, partly because the law dictates it and partly because it's fashionable, okay? It's pretty much like something you have to say in the annual report, right? But at the end of the day, it boils down to, are you walking the talk around those policies? You know, it's pretty much like if I go back to women on boards, okay, you can beat the system by putting your family on the board. So let's take a couple of examples. You know, we all the companies talk about lifestyle balance, and then they say we all have flexible work hours, okay? In an MNC, I can tell you, people can go home at 2 in the afternoon. I can tell you in an Indian company, you go home at 6 o'clock, they'll say, hey, you're taking half day, I'll take an industry, and that is the IT industry. You look at how many Indian companies are there and how many IT companies international, like Capgemini, Accenture, Intel, HP, all of these have women CEOs. Take the big sunrise industry of IT in India, which one of them has a woman CEO? But at the end of the day, it boils down to the culture, the values, the ethos, and the commitment to implement that, which I think is there in the MNCs more than anywhere else. Okay, thank you.
Team opposition, ready to respond?
For Indian women, there are certain things which are very important. For example, safety. Also, what's important to Indian women is customs, traditions. So, for example, Indian companies will respect the fact that there's a Karwa Chauth. We'll be also very sensitive to the fact that, you know, if a girl gets married, we will enable her to get transferred to the place where her husband is. So small things that are very unique to India, I think Indian companies are very sensitive to. The other thing is in terms of flexi time. For example, Godrej has this unique thing that between 10:30 and 4, a woman has to be there. Before that or after that is her convenience. One very nice thing that Mindtree offers, which is very unique to India again. So you have special needs leave of 90 days, extendable to 180 days to take care of parents and family. Very, very tailor-made kind of thing for India. ICICI has fertility leave. And I actually have a girl under me who's been working and she was not conceiving, and thanks to the fertility leave, she's actually recently delivered a baby. So I think we have a cross-section of Indian companies who do some fabulous things for women. Thank you.
The Great Places to Work Institute in India does its annual ranking, and this year 7 out of the top 10 for women-friendly policies happen to be MNCs. Although 27% of entry-level workforce in India comprises women, that 27 shamefully whittles down to only 5% of senior executives in India being women versus a global average of 20. What really underlies this data, and what underlies that, is a fundamental difference in perspective and mindset. Indian companies ultimately mirror society. As per McKinsey's latest study on gender equality in India, we are up against very deep-rooted social attitudes which are not friendly towards women. And that is why women who work in multinational companies live, breathe, and experience a culture which is far more liberating than what they find in Indian companies. Thank you.
Team 2, your response?
I think one of the things that we should consider, since we're at a Fortune event, is what is it that an organization has that makes it women-friendly enough to create Fortune 50 women. Indian organizations tend to be more people-centric. MNCs, more process-centric. When you have an organization that's more people-centric, obviously the whole approach is more personalized. This helps women navigate through difficult periods of time where the maximum loss of women takes place in the corporate ladder. Second, the 360-degree appraisal, which is very popular with multinationals, is not at all woman-friendly. Men typically overrate themselves, whereas women tend to underrate themselves. Next, peer review. It completely works against women because all the peers are men and they have a very, very clear idea of what they expect from it. The last point I wanted to make is 8 out of 10 of the women in your list, Fortune 50, for the last 5 years are from Indian companies in the top 10.
Okay. We get to the most interesting part of the debate right now. It is interjection time. And what that means is these teams get to counter each other. Let's get started.
So you were talking about how Indian companies, how the process is more people-friendly and there's more focus on HR, etc. I actually think it's the opposite, because the Indian promoter is more focused on profit.
I believe that Indian companies run humane organizations. So this whole notion that process should take control during the office hours and then you suddenly become human when you set out of the office is exactly the cause of discrimination in multinational companies.
I can say that as far as respecting privacy, personal life, etc. is concerned, in Indian companies, there is an anytime, anywhere culture. The notion of work-life balance is something that multinational companies not only reflect through policy, but actually practice.
Just one question for my esteemed MNC panelists.
Yeah.
They're all working here in India. How often are the meetings that are held by their global bosses fitted to Indian time?
All the time.
Okay? All right.
All the time, because of the fact that there is sensitivity towards other cultures.
Now, we continue the debate. We continue the debate.
What we're trying to say is that the average Indian company, barring the exceptions, has a promoter or an owner, and it can be male or female, whereas the multinationals are more or less professionally run. So the priorities are different, the attitudes are different. A multinational company may look at CSR or women diversity or equal pay very differently. They look at it as value creation, whereas the average Indian company looks at it as an extra thing that they have to do. They have to accommodate all these things while they're chasing growth, while they're chasing profit. So is it improving? Hell yes, it's improving. But today, are multinationals provide a better environment for women than Indian companies? Yes.
Into?
Well, a lot of statistics has been shared about Indian companies and MNCs. I'd like to just share a couple of stories from my personal life. I put up my hand in an Indian organization, namely ICICI, when I was a 32-year-old widow, to go and set up ICICI's first international office in the male-dominated world of Middle East. And no one ever raised a doubt on how a woman can go to this Middle Eastern world and set up ICICI's office. And this is 20 years back, not today. The second example, I would regularly attend IFC Washington's conference in Washington every year. In the fourth year, I had some other work compulsion and I couldn't show up. The manager of this conference from IFC Washington wrote to me after the conference saying, Renuka, I missed you. I wrote back to her saying, Teresa, this can't be true. You have 4,000 guests there. She wrote back saying, did you realize that you are the only woman managing partner in the entire 4,000 delegates? That's so much for multinational corporations. I rest my case there.
So, Renuka just gave us her personal perspective, which is clearly, something that stands out and is very impressive. But we are not talking about individual experiences here. This is about which broadly is better. I made one of the comments earlier about the meritocracy. I think that is one of the core reasons why women will do better in a multinational. We want an equal playing field that comes with a meritocracy, that comes with somebody being able to see opportunity that is based on merit. One of the things that one has to face in India is the fact that women employees have to deal with when they go home. I think a multinational organization with global processes helps people do that better. This is a priority for global firms to keep the best talent, and that seeps through the organization.
Closing, concluding remarks?
So let me just give a few stats to try and counter what was put by the team on the other side. So let's tell you what you've learned from us. In America, when you go for for your maternity leave of 12 weeks. Very fair, very nice. Guess what? It's not paid for. Look what happens when you come to India and you have to follow Indian law. You got to pay for it. Who's the biggest employer in every country? The government. And our Indian government gives 2 years paid leave to every woman at any time while her children are under 18. I don't think you guys do that. We make you do that. Next thing, Tata Consultancy has 33% of women in their workforce of 100,000. Compare that to IBM, who has 130,000 women. We're not doing too badly. Finally, let me just give you 2 thoughts. So what is the song that we learn when we are growing up from My Fair Lady? Why can't a woman be more like a man? And what do we do as Indian companies when we look after Durga and Lakshmi? We say, guess what, folks? God is a woman. Thank you.
On that note, may we have more and more women, whether it's in a multinational organization or in an Indian organization, thrive and succeed.
I was highly impressed with the quality of our discussions, but I think so were we all. It was also enjoyable, not only from a, opening up your views and your perspectives and everything, but it was also enjoyable to see how fervently you were defending your points, and you've done an excellent job. We have vouched together for the Indian team. We believe, not only content-wise, they have made a very, very good case, very emotionally highly charged, very credible as well. And of course, we have discussed it long and hard and came to this opinion.
Well, I think Roland said it all. If we had to judge based on content, neither side would win, because there's just so much more left to be done on either side. The Indian team, you guys were awesome in your delivery. It was a wonderful debate, but just for a second on the serious side, the leadership tone is what makes all the difference. And I really do hope that more and more leaders are inspired to be what you guys said that leaders today are. So really hoping to that.
I really hope that one day this debate moves away from the whole debate on gender to a debate on competency. And I think that is really when we will begin to see the power of diversity, not just from a gender point of view, but from many, many other aspects.
That was a great debate. At the end of the day, it is merit that should matter. However, having said that, India is a different context. It's not the same as in the West. We have different values, different traditions, different cultures, and therefore many of the things need to be Indianized. And when you look at Indianizing things, getting to know people personally, being a little more emotional, these come with being Indians. And therefore, I think, while it is really great that the multinationals, they implement the policies in the letter of the law, those multinationals that also put the spirit behind it, they do really, really well. I think Indian companies need to do something similar. And the best news is that they are trying.
Thank you so much. May I now invite all the debaters to join us on stage for a small round of felicitation by Mr. Avik Sarkar.
On behalf of the entire team of Fortune India, I am privileged to thank you all for being with us today. I think we all had a wonderful time. It's our first celebratory event, and I think the way it went, encourage us to think that this is going to be the first of many more to come. A big thank you to all our participants. A very special thank you to our moderator, Vani Kola. And last but not the least, our esteemed jury. Having the renowned Roy Zoltzman with us was indeed an amazing experience. A deep-felt thanks to him, as well as his managers, AGP World. My thanks to our presenting sponsor, Nirav Modi, whose products exemplify the same passion for excellence, innovation, and leadership that we find in our listers. Cox & Kings, our travel partner. Health partner, Fortune Rice Bran Oil from Adani Wilmar. Banking partner, Karun Vaisya Bank. Associate partners, Jacobs Creek and Cloud9. Gift partners, Simone and Damilano. Hospitality partner, Taj Lands End. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to you all. I now hand over the stage to Tanmay for a very small but final finale.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen. You have been an amazing audience. This has been a really, really fun show. Thank you.